Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Chaya Kulkarni from UMBC, and today I'll be presenting my research on using machine learning to analyze brightness temperature variance in simulated satellite footprints. This work was conducted under the guidance of Dr. Nikki Prive from Morgan State University and Dr. Vandana Janeja from UMBC as part of the Goddard Earth Sciences Technology and Research 2 Fellowship Program. It is an affiliation of NASA. The way that I have structured today's presentation is it's divided into 4 parts. First, I will explain key concepts that will help us understand this research study, the problem that we are trying to address, and then I will walk you through some of the methods that we have used and the machine learning approach. Next, I will present our results and key findings. Finally, I will discuss the impact and future work. So let's dive right in. We quantified. So firstly, one would be curious to understand what exactly is brightness temperature. So the satellites, when they look at the radiation, they assess the radiation and convert it into a term called as brightness temperature. And what exactly is brightness temperature variance? It is a specific statistical measure of differences between center point and the average footprint values. And this variance is important because it reflects the underlying atmospheric variability in our study regions. So our main objective in this research study was to carry out systematic diagnostic characterization of brightness temperature variance that will help us in addressing and identifying what are the key atmospheric variables that are causing this errors and also the spatial patterns. And one instrument that we are trying to simulate is AMSUA, which is Advanced Microwave Sounding Unit. And we are specifically using channels 5 and channel 11 because they look at different atmospheric layers. So channel 5 looks at troposphere and channel 11 looks at upper troposphere and parts of the stratosphere. So if you look at our research framework overview, you will see that the problem that we are trying to address is representativeness errors that are present in something called as OSSEs. And OSSEs are observing system simulation experiments. I know I'm throwing a lot of acronyms at you, but I will be covering all of these in my upcoming slides. And the data that we use is high resolution data, and that is diamond. It uses 1.5 kilometer resolution and it is spread across 181 vertical levels. The method that we are using is a bunch of methods. We are using feature ranking methods. So we are using random forest, and we are also using association rule mining to validate the results of the feature ranking that we carry out using random forest. Then we are also doing spatial clustering. And as I mentioned earlier, we are targeting AMSUA channels 5 and 11. There are a number of study regions that we have identified, and our main goal in doing all of this is to find out the best possible way to address this representativeness error problem. So firstly, what exactly is this OSSE and why is it so important in our study? So like I mentioned, OSSE is observing system simulation experiment. So the way that you can think of it is a testing bed, and it serves the purpose of testing out new satellite instruments before they are launched into space. So this apparently helps space agencies to save millions of dollars of money. And as you can see here in the infographic, we have the real world forecast and we compare that with the OSSE forecast. The key difference that we can see here is that the OSSE forecast, instead of using reality, they use nature run. So what exactly is this nature run? Nature run essentially is a detailed computer model of the entire atmosphere. So we treat that as a synthetic reality. But the key challenge here is in using OSSE is maintaining realism in these synthetic observations. So this slide talks about what exactly is the representativeness error problem. So here, as you can see in this infographic, we have low resolution model, and on the right, we have the high resolution diamond model. So in the low resolution model, we have fewer grids and they are large in number. And the satellite does not have a problem because it integrates all of the footprint average. But the problem lies solely on the simulations, because instead of taking the average, they just consider the center point that is highlighted here in red arrow. And what that leads to is the representativeness errors. So the way it calculates is point calculation versus spatial averaging, and that leads to a mismatch. So using just the center point creates a problem for us. Here is a little more deep dive into what exactly happens. So this is a hierarchical scale problem. So every region will be represented by hypothetically maybe 800 satellite footprints. Every satellite footprint will have about 50 to 100 model grid points. And then we compute the atmospheric profile in every grid point. So the current method of the simulation, which relies on the center point only, that leads to, although it is faster, it does not have accurate analysis. The ideal method would be to take the full footprint average. That is accurate, but again, that is computationally very expensive. So our research objective is to identify where this shortcut method fails and understand what is causing these errors. What are the atmospheric drivers that are causing this problem? So these maps show where exactly the computational shortcuts fail. So the blue areas are safe, but the other regions which are highlighted in shades of yellow and green, those are problem areas. So low variance means center point method, the shortcut method works fine, but the other colored areas are problematic. High variance means the shortcut method gives inconsistent results. The critical finding here is the errors. They are not random. They follow certain spatial patterns. They form systematic patterns which are driven by atmospheric physics. Channel 5 is shown on the left and channel 11 is shown on the right. And as you can see, both of these don't follow consistent spatial patterns. We identified the atmospheric drivers and created a quantitative framework for predicting where computational shortcuts fail in the satellite simulations. The data set that we used in this study, like I mentioned, is diamond data set because it is very high resolution, 1.5 kilometers, and it is spread across 181 vertical levels, which captures different layers of the atmosphere. This high resolution, it creates a problem for us, but it also gives us the detailed data needed to study this phenomena. We picked 3 different regions: East Pacific, the coast of Greenland, and also the entire Arctic face for understanding different atmospheric variability and how does that contribute to the error patterns. We used a cube sphere grid system. So imagine Earth sitting inside a cardboard box with 6 flat sides: top, bottom, front, back, left, and right. Instead of traditional latitude and longitude, we project Earth's surface onto these 6 flat surfaces. Since each face is flat and square, we get uniform grid spacing everywhere, so there is no squishing at the poles. And why does this matter? This gives us consistent data quality everywhere on Earth, so we can compare satellite footprints and the simulation errors fairly across all our regions. So this is interesting. To convert the atmospheric state variables into the satellite brightness temperature, we make use of a method called as PyCRTM, which is nothing but a Python interface to community radiative transfer model. So it takes in all the atmospheric variables and it converts that into brightness temperature. And this helps in understanding how radiation travels through the atmosphere. So again, we mentioned, like I mentioned, we focused on MCOA channel 5, which is sensitive to the troposphere, and channel 11 is sensitive to upper parts of troposphere and some parts of the stratosphere. Our analysis revealed several key findings. First, variance distribution shows distinct spatial patterns across all study regions. So here I have a visual of just the coast of Greenland. I have used 3 different methods to identify where the variance of the brightness temperature is the highest. So as you can see, same parts have been highlighted with different methods. So this establishes confidence in our technique. Moreover, you can see that the same areas of the coast of Greenland, the northeast part, and also a part close to Iceland. We also used feature ranking techniques to understand which atmospheric variables were influencing high brightness temperature variance. So for this, we relied on two techniques. First was random forest, and we also validated our results using association rule mining. So this multi-method approach, it provides cross-validation of our results. We validated our methodology through multiple approaches. We used dbScan clustering, and that helped us in aligning our results with other techniques. So we also made use of 3 sigma anomaly detection. So whatever was beyond the 3 standard deviation, that was also identified as a vulnerable area, and that helped us in establishing spatial coherence. Random forest feature rankings, they were confirmed by association rule mining, ensuring feature consistency. So most importantly, all of our results were validated by the radiation expert, Dr. Nikki Prive, which provided us physical validation. So this cross-method verification, it gives us confidence in our approach and providing robust and reliable results. I would also like to highlight that this research made several important contributions. We have developed an integrated machine learning framework for enabling systematic representativeness error analysis. We have provided quantitative identification of atmospheric variance drivers, giving us physical insights into what is driving this brightness temperature variance. We have a robust validation framework where we used multiple analytical perspectives, again helping us establish confidence in our analysis. The operational tools we have developed, the framework that we have developed, that has helped us in seeing the, excuse me, sorry about that. The operational tools we have developed have practical applications for OSI validation and the satellite meteorology field. So this helps in informing weather forecasting. Finally, our framework is transferable and applicable beyond just atmospheric applications. This has been tried in another scenario where it was used in biochemistry field. Looking ahead, we see several exciting research directions. We plan to analyze additional satellite channels and additional satellite instruments. We want to expand from our 3 study regions to global coverage. We will study temporal patterns to understand seasonal changes and their influence on the brightness temperature variance. We are exploring ways to use this in real-time weather forecasting. Lastly, I would like to acknowledge my mentors and the funding sources who have made this research possible. Thank you for your attention. I'm happy to answer any questions.